Right now is hands down the best time to buy a Steam Deck. If you're even remotely interested in it, Steam is having a spring sale where everything is discounted. You can get 10% off on any Steam Deck that you choose. So you can save anywhere between $39-ish to about $65-ish, depending on which model it is that you choose. I've done a video talking about my thoughts after having the Steam Deck for 5 months on this channel, and there are a lot of things that I love about it. Yes, there are some cons to it overall, but I think that the next iteration of the Steam Deck is going to address a lot of those concerns, at least for me personally. But regardless, the magic that is had with playing a AAA, AA, or just indie title on the go that is meant for the big screen in your hands is just something that I haven't felt since playing the Nintendo Switch when it first came out. Honestly, this is something that I can recommend to literally anyone that has even some kind of a Steam library to have on the go. The crazy thing about all of this is that Valve themselves have said that selling the Steam Deck is, in a sense, painful to them, and that I can understand. This feels like a loss leader. Guys, we know that for $399, even without the discount, this is a lot of bang for your buck. There aren't many laptops or even gaming PCs that you can get at that price point that deliver similar or comparable performance. And yes, I've seen Linus Tech Tips video where he talks about getting a PC for $500-ish in comparison to the Steam Deck. And yeah, for 500 bucks, sure, but we're talking about getting something for essentially $360 with that discounted price. You can't beat it. The main differences between all of the three different models that are there are essentially the amount or type of storage that you have on the unit itself, as well as the type of carrying case that it comes in, and the premium top dog comes with a premium anti-glare screen. And it's really something that you can just get with a matte screen protector that you can buy from Amazon for like 15 bucks. So it's not anything that is a deal breaker. If you want to expand your storage without taking apart the Steam Deck, you can just get a micro SD that you can plug in and it just works fine from what I can tell. If you want to change the internal SSD, that's a completely different story, and I've definitely ran into issues with doing that personally, but based off of what I've seen online, it is still relatively easy to do despite the over tightened screw that I ran into in my own personal situation. But despite all of that, if you recently just got a Steam Deck because of this sale or just beforehand, there are some things to take into consideration with owning a Steam Deck. For instance, there is going to be a carrying case that you come, so you're pretty much well protected with that, but there are third-party options that are out there. Personally, I'm still doing research on that, so feel free to subscribe to stay up to date when I do post a video talking about third-party cases for your Steam Deck or actual protectors for the body itself. There's also the micro SD card that you can get that will pretty much easily add more storage to your Steam Deck. I would always recommend going with the A2 version of your micro SD card instead of the A1. You're going to get much better performance, and frankly, it is a little bit more expensive, but in my opinion, for the gaming experience overall, it's just better to go with an A2 versus an A1. There are several options that are out there when it comes to screen protectors. There is the tempered glass that I always get from AM Film for pretty much all of my handhelds or even my cell phone. Everything that I get is essentially from AM Film, but there is an anti-glare matte finish screen protector that you can get that will give you that same anti-glare feel that you would get from the top tier Steam Deck. So instead of dishing out the $600-ish that you would in order to get that, you could just go ahead and dish out the 15 bucks more or less that you would get to add that to your Steam Deck. If you want to go even deeper and increase the amount of storage that you have in your Steam Deck, then there are some things to take into consideration. For instance, you want to make sure that you have a really good tool set. Personally, I'm upgrading to the iFixit tool set because of the issues that I ran into when I was changing my internal SSD. And you also want to consider what type of SSD that you're going for or from which manufacturer. You just want to make sure that it's a 2230. And I went for 1 terabyte, but I see a lot of people online going for the 2 terabyte option just to make sure that they have plenty of space for all the games that they want on the go. Once all of that is said and done, it's relatively simple to change it out, and it takes roughly about 30 minutes. Even if you run into issues like I did, it should be relatively easy for you to do. From there, you have the docking options that are available for the Steam Deck. Personally, I have the docking station from Valve themselves, but I am working on a video talking about third-party options that are available and whether or not this is something that I would even recommend, because there is a huge price gap in between the Valve version in comparison to third-party options. Granted, Granted, the Valve version comes with a power brick or a power adapter that goes ahead and plugs into the dock itself, and the Steam Deck itself comes with a power adapter anyways, so it really depends on whether or not you're willing to pay that for that extra money to have that there. Frankly, if Valve had an option that didn't really require that AC adapter to be included in that, then I would rather pay for that instead of just paying for 2 power bricks, because frankly I just don't use the second one, but I digress. One of the biggest things that I always recommend to new owners of a Steam Deck is to familiarize themselves with the quick settings menu. Honestly, this is the easiest way to adjust different settings or tweak different things that affect how the game plays and runs on your Steam Deck. When you hit the quick settings menu, the first thing that's going to pop up is the settings themselves, where you can adjust the brightness, the volume of the game or whatever is on screen, as well as the sensitivity of the microphone. There's other things like airplane mode and Wi-Fi and all this and that that's set in there, but for me the biggest thing is actually one step down, which is the performance. And this is where you can see in greater detail the limitations or constraints that you can apply on the Steam Deck to affect your gameplay. For instance, if I'm playing The Witcher, which I know is a graphically intensive game, I can limit the refresh rate of the screen while playing the game to 40 Hz and also limit the frame rate to 40 frames per second. This allows for a lower amount of latency in comparison to 30 frames per second while still having a relatively smooth experience. Yes, I'm going to have to lower down the graphical fidelity from ultra or high to more of a medium or low, but regardless, this is me playing The Witcher and not the Switcher on Switch on handheld on the go, and it's an awesome experience if I do say so myself. There are a couple of instances where it drops to like 30 frames per second, but I digress. If I'm playing something like, let's say, Neon White, which isn't graphically intensive, but is still a fun and fast-paced game, I don't have to worry about the refresh rate. I can keep it at 60, and I will get a smooth 60 frames per second while I'm playing this game. And I also don't have to worry about the battery life because there isn't that much rendering and processing in the background itself. When it comes to 2D games or pixel games, you don't really have to worry too much about the processor handling what's thrown at it, because frankly, there just isn't that much of a heavy load for it to render. But regardless, it's still an awesome experience, and being able to tweak things on the go to extend battery life is relatively awesome. One thing that I do want to go to mention is that you can limit the TDP of the processor itself, and that can affect the gameplay depending on, again, how heavy things are and how much processing is happening, but it will add an extra 30 minutes to an hour and a half of battery life depending on what type of game you're playing. So this is another tweak that you can adjust straight out of the box that will extend the battery life of your Steam Deck. I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Audible. For those of you that don't know, Audible is the go-to place for audiobooks and podcasts on the go, some of which are exclusive and original to the platform. To learn more, click the link in the description or pinned comment below. So let's say that you already have everything. You've got your micro SD, you've changed out your SSD internally, you have the screen protector, you have everything that you need for your Steam Deck. But what about some games that run great on the Steam Deck? Well, on sale right now, there are a lot of titles, but even still, even if these games aren't on sale, I still recommend them because they're just games that I've had plenty of fun playing and something that I would recommend to any friend or family member. For instance, there's Persona 5 Royal. If you're into JRPGs, this is just the king of JRPGs in my opinion. I've just had so much fun. Expect around 120 to 150 hours of gameplay. God of War, the first one, is phenomenal. It was something that I loved, and it did change everything in terms of its perspective, its storytelling perspective, as well as the gameplay overall in comparison to the previous God of War games. But regardless, it is still something that I think is worth picking up. Spider-Man Remastered is the closest thing that I have personally experienced to a perfect game. I am a little bit biased because Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, but in terms of everything, it is just absolutely perfect when it comes to pacing and overall storytelling aspects, including the action that is there. If you're interested, Spider-Man Miles Morales is also on sale on Steam and is something that is worth picking up if you've played Spider-Man Remastered and you've enjoyed it. If you're into indies like I am, Firewatch is just a perfect indie game. There is this psychological thriller aspect to it that is just out of this world amazing, and this is from the original team that created Telltale Games. They left after a little bit of time and they created their own studio, and this was their first foray in that new studio. Definitely something that I would recommend. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is $3.99 right now on Steam. Guys, if you are into anything that's similar to Souls games but isn't, this is perfect. I have a couple of qualms with it, but regardless, it seems like Jedi Fallen Order, which is coming out later this year, seems to have fixed all of those problems. For $3.99, it's definitely worth picking up. Just go get it. It's worth it. Red Dead Redemption 2 is currently less than $20 on Steam, and frankly, this is heralded as one of the best games ever to come out. If you want something that is story-driven, it has a lot of action, this seems to be the way to go. The reason why I'm saying seems is because I haven't played it yet, but I'm definitely looking at picking it up, and everyone that I've talked to that has played this game has recommended it more than once to me. So I might just pull the trigger and buy it for 20 bucks on Steam. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is by far one of my favorite games from last generation. I love that CD Projekt Red went ahead and updated everything to bring it forward to next gen, but if you're into PC gaming, you already had the best gen as is. Getting all of these updates is just a nice little touch to a game that is already amazing as is. It runs relatively well on the Steam Deck. Like I said earlier, that 40 frames is kind of like where you're targeting in terms of a frame rate, but regardless, it's still a good time. Hades is by far one of the best games that I've ever played. If you're into roguelites, this is the way to go. Everything that is interwoven into the story, you can just play for tens, if not hundreds of hours without finally experiencing the entirety of the story. You have to go through multiple runs, but overall, the execution is top tier. Neon White is a fast-paced, card-throwing, gun action gameplay that has a VN story element into it. Overall, it's phenomenal. This comes from the designer behind Donut County. He went ahead and came into this, and just, it's awesome. It's cool. Give it a go. There's definitely a lot to love about this game. Horizon Zero Dawn is on sale right now and relatively inexpensive. This is something that it blows my mind that you can even play these games on the deck and play it on the go. It's definitely worth it. Finally, Doom Eternal. This is something that honestly, Doom can run on anything. The scalability that is built into the game and into the software itself is phenomenal. And being able to play that on the go at a fast pace is just, it's awesome. It's a nice way to get that FPS action on the go. In the description and in the pinned comment below, I have a couple of other things that I would recommend to new owners of a Steam Deck, but let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything and whether there is anything that you would recommend to a newcomer to the Steam Deck platform if you're an owner yourself. If you want to go ahead and hear my thoughts after having a Steam Deck for 5 months, click this video over here. And if you want to hear my thoughts of the Steam Deck versus the Nintendo Switch or every Nintendo Switch that's out there, then click this video over here. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.